For today's review, I wanted to talk about Nightcrawler. This is a movie that I saw last year, and I loved it. I thought it was one of the best movies of 2014. For whatever reason, it just never really kind of made its way into my DVD Blu-ray collection. But I saw that recently they added it to Netflix, so I was like, yeah, I gotta watch this again. Gotta see if it holds up. I can tell you right now, absolutely holds up. Such a great movie. Quite a unique movie too, I think, because this is definitely a character-based movie. So this is a movie that there's not like an overly elaborate plot. But it is about character development and a character that we're not really sure we want to follow, but we're kind of stuck with him and going on this journey with him and kind of hesitant every step of the way, which those make for some really great movies. Very similar to something like, say, like Taxi Driver, like American Psycho, something like that, where there's like a detached sort of sociopathic lead character that kind of leads the way, and we're kind of entranced by it, but frightened by it. So definitely one of the key aspects to Nightcrawler is Jake Gyllenhaal and his lead performance, where I don't know if they had maybe someone else in mind originally for the role, but he is absolutely perfect in this. And I've always thought he was a really good actor. Probably the first movie where I first kind of thought that he's more than just, say, Bubble Boy, more than just like, Donnie Darko or whatever. I know, he probably gained the biggest fan base from Donnie Darko, but the first movie I thought, wow, this guy has real dramatic chops, was Moonlight Mile. Where he played, the sort of son-in-law of Dustin Hoffman and Susan Sarandon after a terrible tragedy, and kind of bonding with them after that. So I thought that was that performance blew me away. So after that, I was kind of set as a Gyllenhaalic for life. Other great movies to follow. He was in Zodiac, which I loved, and he did, well, Brokeback Mountain, of course, and though I hadn't seen, I heard End of Watch was really good. And the year prior to this one, prior to Nightcrawler, once again, he just kind of blew me away all over again with Prisoners. He was so fucking amazing in Prisoners, playing the detective. So one thing that probably all those movies, aside from, I guess, Donnie Darko, would be that he was part of sort of like an ensemble cast, or at least part of like a dual cast, with Brokeback Mountain, it was him and Heath Ledger, End of Watch, him and Michael Pena. So Prisoners, him and Hugh Jackman, and it was never really front and center Jake Gyllenhaal. Here it is. He's absolutely, undisputedly, unquestionably the main character of the movie, and it's front and center Jake Gyllenhaal, and the entire weight of the movie is held by his presence and his ability as an actor. And I gotta say that he really held his own, and he's a constantly surprising actor. And that's, kind of what I like about him in general. And this movie brought a lot of surprises. As this character he's quite mysterious. Like, we don't really get a lot of background on this character, but we sense that he's kind of like this lost in life kind of go anywhere, do anything kind of character. Just trying to work in some sense of normality into his life, trying to work towards the American dream, so to speak, where, if you set your mind to it, you can do anything. So he kind of becomes obsessed with that, and aside from like doing odd jobs and like collecting scraps and stuff, kind of thieving around, he gets kind of caught up almost by accident into this world of the night crawling, of capturing news footage. And the whole movie is about basically like building this little empire, and all the moral kind of gray areas that come with it. And I thought that was extremely well done. And all along the way, he's spouting off his own philosophies of what he's doing is completely normal. Meanwhile, like, he's kind of like this seedy guy. But the meantime, everything else is working. Everything's working out, building this empire in a really successful way. And what's interesting about this whole kind of seedy area, this whole Nightcrawler world, is that it does kind of like, just like he's holding that camera in front of the chaos, it's like the camera is being pointed at us as the audience, in that we always see this horrible stuff on the news. We're always shocked by it, consumed by it, can't take our eyes off it, but we never really kind of stop to think that, where is this coming from? People are, filming this, and essentially it is this commodity. It's something that we as these consumers of fear, basically, there's a demand for it, like it or not, and these are the people bringing the product to us, basically. So I'd almost equate it. I think I mentioned this, when I talked about it a little bit in a best of 2014 video, but I'd equate it to, the same way that, if you're starting your car, if you're getting gas, a movie like Syriana will make you think about that a little bit differently. I would say the same thing goes for, like, if you're turning on the TV, watching the news, watching these horrible things. It'll kind of, Nightcrawler will kind of make you think about, where it's coming from, and kind of the cost of this commodity, which it basically is. And I think the way he reacts to the people within that world at different tiers, as equals, as underlings, and as, kind of the high top priority buyers, his reactions with those people are very interesting. Like, you have, his partner, who he gains, who's always kind of like, almost like the voice of the audience, where it's like, are you sure you should be doing this? I'm really worried about this. What's going on? Every step of the way, kind of like that. But then you have, like, kind of like a fellow Nightcrawler in Bill Paxton. Always great to see Bill Paxton. I fucking love Bill Paxton. Great as, like, just very sleazy, very what you would expect that kind of character to be. You don't really expect it to be like the Gyllenhaal type character. You expect it more like the Bill Paxton like character. So he's the more normal version, where, yeah, it's just a job, it's good money, it's competitive, da 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 da. Not to the extreme levels of almost obsession that Gyllenhaal's character takes it. So I thought he was a fascinating character. And Rene Russo, as the news anchor who's buying this commodity, who needs it for ratings. When he kind of draws her into his creepy little web, those scenes are just amazing. Like, there's one really intense scene between the two where you just can't, like, she can't fucking believe what he's, saying to her, and she's just absolutely shocked by it. And it's like, at the same time, it's like, what he's saying almost makes sense. So it's really weird. It's a very morally ambiguous movie, but there are a lot of tense scenes in it. Like, the way it kind of lights up the city night is done in a very innovative way, I think. This is Dan Gilroy's first movie. He wrote it, he directed it. He has a very keen eye as a filmmaker. He knows how to kind of make things stand out. This almost does feel a little bit like, I would say, almost like a Michael Mann movie. So it's able to use the cityscape and the nighttime setting very effectively. So I think he does that well. And the movie, it was an awards contender. Dan Gilroy, he got a nomination for his screenplay, which I thought was well deserved. But probably the big snub here was Jake Gyllenhaal. He didn't get a nomination for it, which I think he probably should have. Looking back on it, it's just a great and intense performance. But it is kind of like one of those detached type of characters, like a Patrick Bateman, like a Travis Bickle. So maybe just because it's just a little bit off-putting, maybe that didn't quite give him the edge. I don't know, but awards are nice and everything like that. But that's not necessarily why we see movies. We see them for compelling characters and compelling stories, which I think this has both. I was very compelled by the character as much as I was, in some ways repelled by him. So I think that makes for a good mix. We can't always love all the characters. You always, hear people saying from the movies, oh, does it have likable characters or not? Well, that's not necessarily the point. Do they have interesting characters? And I think this movie definitely does have an interesting character in Jake Gyllenhaal's a Nightcrawler character. And I think the story does go into interesting ways. Like, we always kind of expect it to go one way or another. Like, maybe he'll get caught up in some big heist or some big police, procedural. But this kind of sidesteps a lot of cliches, which makes it all the more sort of realistic, I guess. I mean, this is definitely something that takes a cold, hard look at certain realities. So I gotta say, upon a second watching, catching it on Netflix, it really holds up. This is a great movie. So I rate Nightcrawler 4 stars out of 4. It's an incredibly intriguing movie with a top-notch and career-best performance by Jake Gyllenhaal and an extremely impressive directorial debut from Dan Gilroy. So check it out. It's on Netflix as far as I know still. So definitely check it out. And until next time, comment, rate, subscribe, and I'll see you later.